Hello, everybody, and we're here for Zoom at noon. That's what we're calling it now. Zoom at noon with Cecilia, and she did our vocal boot camp workout last week, and now we're going to take it more to accompaniment. And actually, I said that right, accompaniment. I usually mess that word up. I was like, yeah, I can't believe I went for it, but I got it. And playing piano for vocalists, right? So how to play, just really working on single key stuff, melody kind of stuff, and then getting into some chords. And I think Cecilia even has a song to work on for everybody after we're said and done. So I'll kick it over to Cecilia, and let's get it going.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. So we're going to go over some basics. And we're going to start with just talking about note names. And then we're going to talk about some basic chord structures and how to build chords on the piano. And then we're going to talk about something called inversions. And then, I think we can get it all done.
Wow.
I think we can get it all done.
Wow.
What I would suggest,
Ambitious.
what I would suggest is that go back and watch the video later and play along with me and pause here and there because, I'm going to move through it a little bit faster than you might be able to keep up the whole time. Okay?
Yeah. And if you have any questions, feel free to hop into the chat and write your questions in there if you want us to address it while we're going. And I'm keeping an eye on that chat. Feel free. Everybody's muted at home. So if you have a keyboard in front of you and you want to work out some of the exercises that we're talking about a little bit with just so you can visualize it on your own instrument, that's totally fine because we can't hear you. All right. All right. Back to you. Sorry.
Awesome. Back to me. Cool. So I'm going to turn this around so you guys can see my hands and my keyboard right here. And this will be review, I think, a little bit for both of you, because I've actually done a little bit of piano with both Colin and Amelia, but it's always good to review because it's easy to forget this stuff. So the most important note on the keyboard, and that's the one that we always learn first, is middle C. And middle C has two black keys right next to it, right? And it's the left key next to the two black keys. And it's right in the middle of the keyboard. It's not up here or down here. It's right in the middle, right? And as a fun little exercise for yourself later, you can see if you can find all the C's on the piano, right? Because our musical alphabet is pretty short. And if we're going from C, it's just C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. Now, I started on C because most of the things that we work around and most of the songs that we're going to work on are based out of C or C position or the key of C. Even though our alphabet starts on A, C is also a little easier to find visually, right? It's easy to spot these two black keys in the middle and then C's right there, right? So if you guys rewatch this video, I want you to pause right now and just count along for yourself. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? Which also happens to be our C major scale. So, store that in the back of your mind for now. Great, let's see, I'm gonna check my notes real quick. Okay, so that's all of our note names, right? All of our white key note names. The black keys, which I think we'll probably get to using one of the black keys today, we either call the black keys sharps or flats. We call them sharps if we're going up to a black key. So this would be C sharp, D sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp. If we're going down from a white key, we call them flats. B flat, A flat, G flat, and so on. Make sense so far? Cool. I'm going a little fast, so if I'm going too fast and you want me to slow down or go over something twice, let me know. Okay. When we're building chords, the first thing we need to do is pick our first chord note. Now, I'm going to show you guys a little exercise that I like to do with all of my students who are first starting out on piano, but who also like to sing. When we're building chords, especially in the key of C, which is visually really easy to see, we're picking every other white key, right? So if we're playing a C chord, we have C, E, and G. See how I'm skipping these two notes? Yeah. So that's my C major chord. And I can play a scale with these chords if I move the same shape up a step and I keep going. That's kind of cool, right? And then you can come back down. And this is a really great way to just kind of practice keeping that basic root position chord shape in your hand. And a lot of playing piano is just getting things in your muscle memory, getting your fingers used to holding certain positions. And it's the same thing with guitar too, actually. Great, so moving on a little bit, the C chord, we can play a couple different ways. There's actually 3 ways we can play it. Now, my note names were C, E, and G, right? If I take this C and I move it up top to here, right? So now I have E, G, C. This is still a C chord. Everybody follow that so far? And now I can keep moving up. I can take my E and move it up top. So I have G, C, and E. Still a C chord, even though I jumbled up all the pitches, all the notes are not in order anymore. It's still a C chord because I have my C, E, and G notes. So another really good exercise to get used to kind of seeing this visually on the piano is start with your basic triad, your basic root position triad. Triad is another word for a chord with 3 notes. And move the bottom note up to the top, right? C, E, G, E, G, C, G, C, E, C, G. That's kind of high, right? That makes sense so far? Everybody follow? Cool. Jared follows. Colin looks like he's following. And I know Amelia's with me too. Cool. So, and you can do this with any chord, right? And it sounds really cool and kind of dramatic, right? I really like doing this. I think it's a fun exercise. So if you're kind of working this out on the piano and you just want some extra practice, you can play through all of your inversions with each chord in the C scale, right? So we have our C chord, our D minor, our E minor, and so on. Let's talk really, really quick about the difference between major and minor. There's a lot of theory that goes into this, but I'm going to show you just a couple easy ways to kind of check to make sure that you're playing the right chord. Okay, so major, we usually say that it's a more happy sound, right? And minor sounds a little gloomy, a little sad, maybe a little spooky. Right? Another way to tell is for our major chords, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps in between. A half step is the closest increment on the piano. It's the smallest interval. So you would count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has 4 half steps on the bottom and 3 on top. 0, 1, 2, 3. Right? So we have 4 half steps, 3 half steps. If we switch that equation and flip it upside down, and we put 3 half steps on the bottom and 4 on top, we end up with a minor chord. So it's kind of like they're siblings or something, right? They're kind of based off of the same root. Our root is our bottom note when we're in root position. But we just switch the middle note. And it makes a totally different sounding chord. It's kind of cool. Okay, So that's major and minor. We covered our note names. And my goal for you guys is to eventually be able to, I'll turn this back to you while I'm talking. My goal for you guys is to eventually be able to say, hey, I want to learn this song, and I don't really want to sing it along to a recording. I just want to play piano for myself and sing it, because I know the melody pretty well. I just want to look up the chords. You can go Google, say, for this song that I prepared for you guys today, I went online and I Googled Let It Be the Beatles. That's the band name, right? Song name, band name, and chords. And sometimes you have to kind of look through and see, ooh, that looks a little too hard. Here's a simplified version, right? And so I kind of looked through. I skipped the ones that looked a little too tricky. And I found this really nice version. And you'll find something that looks like this. And then I printed this out. And I can send this to both of you after we're done, right? So you see all these letters above the lyrics. See that? Yeah. So those are our chords, right? And luckily, this song is, we're going to play it out of C. So most of our keys are going to be white, which is easier visually when we're first starting out. So I wanted something that mostly uses white keys today, just because it's a little easier to see and copy what I'm doing. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to turn this back to the piano, and I'm going to chat a little bit more. So when I'm looking through my chords here, and you guys at home, you might want to grab a piece of paper and a pencil if you want to play along with me. Might be easier to do this. But I'm going to show you guys my kind of longhand process of how I used to go through this before I just kind of memorized all the note names. So you can get a piece of paper. Doesn't have to be staff paper like this. It can just be like a blank piece of paper. It doesn't matter. And I would write down, okay, my first chord is C. First chord is C. All right. Second chord is G. Third chord is A minor. And fourth chord is F. All right. And I would write that down, right? Just like that, with kind of evenly spaced out. And then what I would do is just play through it, right? I'm putting my thumb on C, my middle finger on E, and my pinky on G. Right? Sounds like a C chord. And then you can check it by singing the melody along, right? You can go, when I find myself in times of trouble, right? Sounds actually pretty good. Now I'm going to jump up to my next chord, my G chord. And if you're not super fast at finding your chords, that's okay. If you start at C, you can count up the letters until you get to the note you're looking for. So here's my C chord, and then I'm going to find my G. C, D, E, F, G. Right? Here's my G chord. So now I can go, when I find myself in times of trouble, and then A minor. Ooh, A is right above G, right? Because that's how our musical alphabet goes. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it starts over A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So I just have to move a step up. Mother Mary, right? So now I have, when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary. Ooh, I got to find my F. So now I'm going to go backwards. Going backwards is a little trickier, but I'm going to go A, G, F. Comes to me, right? So now I have this whole first line. C, when I find myself in G, times of trouble, A minor, Mother Mary, F, comes to me. And then we're going to go back to C for speaking words of G, wisdom, and then F, let it be. And we're going to learn some other little fun chord melody embellishments in just a little bit, because I really like playing this song because we can do lots of fun things with it. Right? That's a lot of jumping around, though. C, G, A minor, F, C, G, F. That's like way too much jumping around. I'm way too lazy to do it this way. So, remember when we talked about inversions?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jared agrees.
No, usually things that sound very complicated with a lot of musicians, we actually try to find the easiest way to play something in most cases. Even if it's very complex, we don't try to make it harder on ourselves than it needs to be, which is smart. At least that's how I play. There are some technicians that do like to do things difficult, so.
Right. And I also think that this doesn't even sound that good, right? It's kind of, I think some styles of music call for this kind of like, that sounds like kind of like an 80s, like,
right.
Power rock song.
Yeah, I was feeling some like a journey in there, right?
Totally. But maybe not so much for a Beatles song, right? So this is kind of your call, depending on what song you're working on. But for this song, especially because we're working on our inversions, right? We want to make sure that we can play it nice and smooth. So I'm going to show you guys my process for how I would work this out when I was around your guys' age, okay? So it can feel a little tedious, but if you do it this way, you get really fast. And then you start to kind of just see the patterns on the piano. It's almost like they light up in your mind or something. You can kind of see what keys you're supposed to use, but it takes a little practice to get there. It takes a little bit of practice, both just learning all your note names so you can find them without counting up from C or down from C. And, it takes kind of working on your chord spelling, right? Your chord spelling is spelling out the note names in your chord. So C would be C, E, G, right? Okay, so I'm going to turn this back, and I'm going to do this. So remember this piece of paper where I wrote down my first line of chords here? I have my C. It's okay if you can't see it. I'm going to tell you what I have here. So I have C, G, A minor, and F. And whenever we have a minor chord, you usually would see, for example, this A minor, we have an uppercase A and then a small m, a lowercase m. Sometimes people write it as a minus sign or M-I-N, or they write out minor. It all means minor. But whenever you just see the letter all by itself, major chord. Don't got to worry about it. And in the key of C, all of these chords end up being white keys. So I have my C chord, right? I have C, E, G. I would write that in. I would just write the letters in a little bit smaller, maybe in parentheses, underneath, just like that. And then my G chord, C, D, E, F, G, G, B, D, right? G, B, D, okay, G, B, D. And what I'm doing here is I'm setting you up to talk about something called common tones. We're about to cover that. A minor, ooh, that's just a step above, right? A, C, E. And last but not least, we have our F chord here. F, A, C. Okay. So now I've kind of mapped out what notes I'm using, right? And that's really useful because now I can see what notes my chords have in common, right? This is called finding your common tones. So we're going to look at our C chord and our G chord, and we're going to see if we can find an inversion of one of those chords that leads smoothly to the other chord. Everybody follow so far? Am I going too fast?
All makes sense. Everybody good?
Good. Jared, let me know if I'm flying too quick.
No, I think you're doing a really good job of getting everything. Awesome. You're getting everything, and we could always go back and answer these questions.
Awesome.
So.
And you guys are
I'm answering in the chat, so we're good. We're
awesome.
doing it.
Go team.
Yay!
So, I'm gonna turn this back, and I have my C chord to my G chord. We're just gonna do 2 chords at a time, right? So here's my C chord. and my G chord. Oh, and I can see, right? I have one common tone between my C chord, C, E, G, and my G chord, G, B, D, is G, right? So I'm going to see if I can find a good inversion where I don't have to move my G, right? Where I can keep my G in place. That's going to be my anchor note. And I'm actually going to choose to do this so that my C chord is not in root position. And let's go over our inversion names too. So we have root position. I forgot to say that before. So we have root position, C, E, G, right? First inversion is when C is on top. So we have E, G, C. And then our second inversion is when C ends up in the middle. We have G, C, E, right? So root, first, second. So I'm going to start with my C chord in. I'm going to start with my C chord in second inversion because that means I can move to a G chord in root position really easily, right? So I'm going to go, here's my C chord. I have G, C, and E. You guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
So I have C, when I find myself into G. Times of trouble. Oh my gosh, that was so much easier, right? When I find myself in times of trouble. So easy, rather than when I find myself in times of trouble. Especially since, maybe your main instrument is your voice. You want to be able to focus on singing really well. How are you going to do that when you're jumping around so much on the piano, especially if you're kind of new to piano? So we're going to do C position like this, and then we're going to do our G chord, times of trouble. And then for A minor, we don't have any common tones, right? G, B, D, up to A, C, E. No notes in common, but it's really close, right? So that's pretty easy. Make sense so far? Cool. So we have C chord, G, C, E. When I find myself in times of trouble, move up a step for A minor. Mother Mary. Ooh, A minor to F. I like this one. So we have A, C, E, and F chord is F, A, C. We have two notes in common here. We have A and C, right? First two notes of A minor and second two notes of F major are the same note. So we just have to change, here's my A minor, we just have to change one note so that we can play an F chord instead of an A minor. And that's losing our E and changing it to an F. So now we have Mother Mary for our A minor, and then F chord comes to me. Everybody follow? Cool. So starting from the beginning, I have my C chord, G, C, E. When I find myself in G, times of trouble, A minor, up a step, Mother Mary, change your E to an F, comes to me, and then guess what? We go back to C. Speaking words of, back to G, wisdom. And then for this F chord, we're going to move down a step. Let it be. Right? So I'm going to finish writing that in here. So I have C, G, A minor, F. And then for speaking words of wisdom, I have G, or C to G to F. So for those, I'm going to go, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And all of your C chords are going to have this shape. So you have a little more space on the bottom, right? You have two notes in between your G and your C, and then your E on top. right? So I'm going to play through this whole first verse, and this is almost the whole song. And you know all the chords that we're going to use in this song pretty much. So I'm going to start from the beginning. Here's my C chord. I have G, C, and E under my fingers. And I'm going to start with that, and I'll kind of talk you through what chords I'm playing as I'm singing. So here's my C. When I find myself in, and then back to G, my anchor note is my G, right? So I move my top two notes down a step each. Times of trouble, and then up a whole step for all, well, not a whole step, but up an entire step with all of my fingers to A minor. Mother Mary, change that top note to F, just a half step up, comes to me, and then back to my C, right? My second inversion. Speaking words of, keep the G on the bottom, move your top two notes down, wisdom, and then down to F. Let it be. That makes sense so far? Cool, awesome.
Me.
All right. Any questions?
Lisa asked if, so it's the second inversion for C. Is it first inversion for F, or it's just the regular root chord, right, for F?
Let's see. So when I'm going for my, let's see, I'll play through it. So for F, we have two different F chords here.
Right,
so the
right.
first one is our first inversion.
Yeah.
Right, because our F note is on top. So we have
Correct.
A, C, F on top. And then the second time we get through it at the end of the verse, we have a root position F. So we have, I'll play through it real slow again. When I find myself, that's C, root position G. In times of trouble, root position A, move up a step, A minor. Mother Mary, first inversion F. So that means F on top, A, C on the bottom, comes to me. And then back to my C chord, which is G, C, E. Speaking words of root position G, wisdom, and then down to root position F. Let it be. And I'm playing a root position F because if you guys have heard this song, at some points in the song it goes, right? And that's really easy. You can just walk down your root position chords from F. F, E minor, D minor, C. And I'm just keeping my three fingers here, my thumb, my middle, and my pinky, my number 1, 3, and 5, playing those chords, right? My index and my ring finger are just resting. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Right? And then there's an intro and I think a little instrumental part somewhere in the middle where we do kind of an extended version of that. And we'll learn that in just a couple minutes. Great. So I'm going to play through one more time the verse and that little F walk down. So you can hear all of it together, okay?
Great.
And let's see, should I speak my chord names or should I just play it so you can see while I sing? What makes the most sense to you guys?
How about you play it and sing it, and I'll say the chord names?
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Awesome. So here we go. 1, 2, ready.
C,
When I find myself in
G,
times of trouble,
A minor,
Mary
F,
comes to me, speaking
C,
words of
G,
wisdom, let
F.
it be.
Walking down.
Yeah, awesome. And this walk down sounds really fancy, but it's really easy, right? It's just chords in root position walking down. So, if I was doing it just one note at a time, I would just go F, E, D, C. Now I'm just adding notes on top. Right? And whenever you're playing piano, you really have to listen to what notes you're playing, right? You have to listen and see if it sounds okay. If it sounds off, that doesn't sound like the F chord I played before. You kind of have to mess around with it until you find the right one, right? That's not right either. No, there it is, right? So if something sounds off, don't just keep playing that off-sounding chord. Try a couple different things. Check and see if you're playing the right inversion. Check your note names, even if you have to count up C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Make sure that you're playing the right notes. Otherwise, you're just going to get frustrated by that kind of annoying, weird sounding note, right? Okay, let's keep moving. So there is another verse after that. But we're going to skip to the chorus, the part where it goes, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be, whisper words of wisdom, let it be. We're going to move on to that because our chords are a little bit different. So after I play through my whole chord cycle for my verses, right? I have 2 verses back to back. I'm going to do, let's see. My chords are, I'll talk you guys through what the chords are. So I have C, A minor, G, F, C again, my top line, and then I have C, G, F, and then I'm just going to draw an arrow going down for my walk down. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to start with our C in that same inversion as before, right? I think that's easiest to stick with. So I have G, C, B, right? My A minor and my C chord have 2 notes in common, and that's C and E. There's no G in my A minor, so I have to change that G to an A, right? So I have let it be, C chord to A minor, let it be, right? And then, going back down to G, I can move that whole shape from my A minor, I move that whole shape down to G. Let it be, right? So let's play through those 3 chords. We're going, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it, is that right? You know what? This chord chart is wrong.
I think there's
there is actually a mistake. And I was going to talk about mistakes in chord charts, and I didn't even catch this one. So this chord chart is wrong because the chorus doesn't start on C. The chorus starts on A minor. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. That's right. Okay, good. I'm actually glad that this chord chart had a mistake because a lot of chord sheets like this on the internet have a mistake or 2 or something that's unclear. So if something sounds wrong, you got to figure out what sounds off and then play around with it.
Right.
See if you can figure out what's going on. A lot of the time,
don't trust everything you see on the internet, right?
Exactly.
Is that don't trust everything you see because anybody can go and write a chord chart. I appreciate the people who make the attempt to write the chord chart because it makes our lives a little bit easier. But there's a little bit of we need to check each other's work sometimes too. So
true, very true. We all got to help each other out. So now that we've found our mistake, right? We're going to start from our A minor in root position. Let it be. And then this is going to be super easy because we're just walking down to our G chord, which is a whole step down. Let it be, let it be. And then F, let it be. Back up to C, let it. Now this is going to be a little bit of a jump, but it's worth it, I promise. Let it be. Right back to our second inversion C. Whisper words of, back to G, wisdom, and then F, let it be. And then we get to play this awesomely fun walk down. So all together, our chorus is A minor, let it be. Take that whole shape, move it down to G, let it be. Take that whole shape, move it down to F, let it be. Now do your C chord second inversion. Let it be. So that C is G, C, E. And then press down that C chord again. Whisper words of G, wisdom. Move down to F, let it be. Everybody got that? Makes sense so far?
Yep.
Cool, awesome, very good. So let's see, why don't we play together or play through what we have so far. So I'm gonna play through a verse and then the chorus, okay? So I'm gonna play the whole verse and then my little F walk down, right? And then I'm gonna play my chorus, let it be, let it be. That's what we just did, right? And then another little walk down. The song has a lot of that going on, that F walk down, okay? So I'm gonna play through all that and maybe Jared can call out the chords. I'll do it nice and slow.
Okay.
Okay. So here we go. We're gonna start with C in second inversion. 1, 2, ready.
C,
When I find myself in
G,
time of trouble,
A minor,
Mother Mary
F,
comes to me,
C,
speaking words of wisdom.
A minor, F, sorry.
It's a little tricky. You're doing great, Jared. And then, how about I'll just play the next verse? So here's another verse. Resetting with my second inversion C. And in
D,
my hour of
G,
darkness,
A minor,
sitting right in front of me,
C,
speaking words of wisdom.
F,
Let it be. Now A minor, I'm going to jump up
A minor,
my chorus. Let it be.
E minor, G,
Let it be.
F,
Let it be.
C, C,
Whisper words of wisdom. Let it be.
F.
Pretty cool, right? And that's the whole song. There is not really anything else except for that other little extended walk down that I talked about going on in that song. Looks like Colin's playing through it, so I'm going to just give him a second to kind of check that out. So I'll talk a little bit more. So this is a great way to just kind of go through, learn a song, and it can be really empowering for a singer to figure out what the chords are, right? If you're playing in a band or you want to perform at an open mic, this is all you really have to be able to do, right? Now, we've only talked about right hand chords so far. What I like to do with my students and what I do for myself, like if I'm writing a song or playing through a song by myself, is I play the chords in the right hand and the root in my left hand. We're going to talk about that in a second. And I don't think we're going to go through it too much. I'll just kind of talk about it. And it's not too tricky. So once you have the chords down in the right hand, you'll be able to figure out the left hand part pretty easily, just if you know how to do it. So I'm going to show you guys my my little extended walk down that I do, and you guys are going to recognize it, I think. I'll show it to you first, and then I'll tell you how it goes. And it's just an extension of my F walk down that we were doing with, right? But this time we're going to keep going. So here's my F in root position. And now I'm going to reach down to B flat. And back up to C second inversion. Right? So that's kind of like a cool little extra thing you can do to sound extra legit when you're playing this song, right? Now, that B flat is kind of important. I think it sounds cooler with the B flat than if you play B natural. it's okay to play the B natural, but if you're playing with other people, you might want to figure out what everyone's playing so it all sounds the same. But I think it sounds better with B flat. So I'll go through it nice and slow now. Back up to C. So I'm basically walking down the octave from F down to F with a B flat instead of a B natural. Now, I think the B natural just doesn't quite sound as good. So that's why I like to play a B flat there. And I think the B flat is more correct, too. That's what my ear is telling me, at least. But, you know, all of this stuff is kind of up to interpretation, right? If you're the person playing the song and you're the only one playing the song, or if you can convince everyone else in your band to play it the way you do, then as long as everyone's on the same page, that's the most important part. That's when it's going to sound good, right?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Really quick, we're going to go through what I might do with my left hand for this song, and then maybe I'll play through that whole little cycle one more time, okay?
Sounds great.
Everything good so far? All right. So left hand, if I'm playing the song, my left hand is just playing the root, meaning the name of the chord, the letter that we use for the name of the chord. So my left hand is just going C, G, A, F, right, for the verses, C, G, and then thumb on F, F, E, D, C. So all together, that's, I have my C here, right, and my pinky is on F right now, my thumb's on C, so I don't have to move around too much except for when I get to my walk down, right? I think I found that's the best position for my left hand to be in, because then once I get these notes in my muscle memory, I don't even have to look at my left hand. I just know what I'm playing, right? So here's my C. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And then reset for my A minor, right, for my chorus. Here's my A minor, G, F, C, right? And then I'll play through that real quick too. So here we go. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it, and then F, be. And then for that extended walk down, I'm starting on F, and I'm going, let's see, I'm going to make sure you guys can see my whole bottom part of my keyboard. I have F, walking down, and then I'm swinging my thumb down to C, so I can easily line up and have C, B flat, A, G, F. Right? And then back up to C. And then I'm already in that position I want to be in, right? Just skip up and reset to where I was. So let's see. Why don't we, well, first, does anyone have questions? Anything I should go over more slowly?
I think we're good. It looks like in the chat. I think we've
Very
stayed
good.
on.
We kind of flew through a lot of information, so
Yeah.
I would suggest just, going back to this video later and just pausing. Whenever I introduce something new, pause, do it on the piano for yourself so you can keep up, right? Because this video is going to go through it a lot faster than, especially someone who's maybe playing for the first time is going to catch up, right? So there's a lot of information, and it's more than you're going to be able to do in one sitting. So you could kind of break it up for yourself, do like 15 minutes at a time or something. But this is all you really need to do to be a pretty decent accompanist for yourself when you're singing.
Right.
Yeah. And I saw Lisa's question. So yeah, I am playing all root notes in the bass. So my left hand is only playing the root, as in the letter name of the chord. So if I'm playing a C chord in second inversion in my right hand, I'm still playing just a C in my left hand.
Yeah, and that's a great place to start. It's and how Cecilia was doing it with just one. Excuse me, keeping her hand in one place is going to make it a lot easier for you when you start. When you get to playing more advanced, you might add more notes into your left hand. Typically, I mentioned this earlier, but typically fourths or fifths or octaves more happen in the left hand. Thirds start to get a little muddy once you get below middle C. It kind of starts sounding pretty. It can sound muddy is a good way of just saying it, just a little mucky down there. That's not always the case. If you're going for that effect, then a third in the bass is a really good thing. So the one thing that I was going to point out, just when you're counting out your inversions, I like how Cecilia did this. She starts at 0. She says 0 from the note she's on, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes students, they start 1 on the note that they're on, right? And I always say you have to go somewhere to get somewhere. Where you start it doesn't count, right? If I'm just sitting in my house and I don't take a step anywhere, it can't be a half step, it can't be a whole step because I haven't moved, right? So you have to move to get a half step, right?
Oh, I like that. I'm going to use that. That's great.
Got to go somewhere to get somewhere. I like like southern kind of like sayings that yeah. That just like, oh, you gotta go. You gotta go somewhere and get somewhere. They stick with you, right? So I'm gonna write a book one day of just all of the sayings. I just need to like go back to my old students and be like, what were the things that I used to just drive into your skull? You got to say it before you play it. That's another one for drums. I always say you got to say it before you play it. You got to be like 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, and 4, and know how to count it right first.
Very important. Yeah.
So that's especially important for rhythms, right? Not just drums, but we focus most on rhythm when we play drums.
Absolutely.
Well, this was great, Cecilia. I'm impressed that you covered all of this song and all of the chords and all of the different the major and minor triads. That's a
lot, right?
That's what we call those chords too. 3-note chords we refer to as triads. So if you ever hear that lingo, major or minor triads. And I actually wanted to show everybody. Where I'm gonna do like a little video on a songwriting game that works very well with the chords that Cecilia talked about in the beginning, which were just your scale chords, your scalar chords when you were on C major and you just moved to C major, then it was D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, and then it's technically B diminished, right? And then goes back to C. And it's actually just using a dice. And if you just assign 1 is C, 2 is D minor, 3 is E minor, 4 is F, 5 is G, then 6 is A minor. And then you just pretty much get rid of the B diminished because for the most part, in most songs, that's what you do in songwriting. Like, unless you really have an idea of how you're going to use that diminished chord, it's not really useful to most simple songwriting, right? And then you just roll the dice, and you literally pick the chords just by rolling the dice. So that's like a fun way to, if you're just trying to figure out how to start songwriting.
That is so cool. I love that idea.
Yeah, so we're going to try. I'm going to show everybody how to do it, but that's just a quick tip, like trick. You can try it. I've actually never really done it. I had a friend tell me about this game, and I was like, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense."
Wow, that's a great way to work on, finding what your number chords are too, right? Like when we talk about chord progressions, a lot of musicians, instead of saying the note name of the chord, they'll say the 1 chord or the 4 chord or the 5 chord, meaning I'll just go through it really quick. So,
Right.
Meaning, here's our one chord, C,
Yes.
right? If we're in the key of C, C is 1. Depends on what key you're in. If you're
Yeah.
in F is 1. But
Right.
we're talking about key of C stuff now. So here's our one chord, our two chord, 3, 4 is F in the key of C, 5 is G. So a really common progression is one chord, 4, 5, 1. So you'll hear a lot of people talk about chord progressions in numbers. So if you ever hear someone doing that, that's what they're talking about. They're just telling you what number scale step they're basing the chord off of.
Right.
They say 1, 6, 2, 5 or 2, 5, 1 or 1, 4, 5. All really common progressions.
And you find this a lot with jazz. You find people talking in like the numeric chord, and especially a lot with vocalists, because vocalists will sing songs in different keys depending on their range. So it's good to know how to transport, like as more of a instrumentalist than a vocalist. I do sing, but I don't consider myself a singer. And that's where I have to use it more. Is like if I know it as 1, 4, 5, then any singer that comes up and says like I like this in E, I can easily transpose it. But if I learn it as the chords of G, C, and D, and then they say like let's move it, maybe if I'm moving a half step. Actually, sometimes a half step is the worst to move, right? Because you're like, oh, now everything becomes flat, right? So it makes yeah. So it's people, let's just play everything in C sharp, and you're like, oh, why is C sharp? Who does that? We're getting pretty dense here.
Vocalists. Cool.
Yeah.
Cruel, sadistic vocalists.
Right. Transposing is that's definitely a talent that you have to work at. And some people are just very, very good at it. Usually people who work with who are great accompany. I'm going to mess it up this time now. Accompany. I missed it. See, I told you. I should have quit while I was ahead. Okay, does anybody else have any other questions? It looks like we're pretty good. You can raise your hand if you want to, or if you have anything you just want to say out loud. If you just want to scream, we can all mute and just scream. How's that sound? No.
It sounds like a great ending to this video, right?
No, this was a lot of fun. Thank you, Cecilia. Like I said, I'm impressed with how much we got to learn today. I didn't have to chime in with much because you did such a great job.
Thank you. Well, I hope it wasn't too much information, and I hope that if anybody goes and watches this later, whether they were in the session or another student who just wants to check it out later, I hope that they go back and kind of pause here and there so they can take their time with it, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to rush through it.
Right. These things we took an hour to learn them. It will take you hours and months and years to perfect them, right? And you don't even really perfect them. It's constantly a work in progress. You're going to get better. I still find inversions on things and different voicings that I've never really used much before. And then once I find them, I'm like, ooh, that's great. I can totally use that. So definitely keep playing with these, and just just grab some chord charts of your favorite songs, right? And try to work through it the exact same way. We can talk a little bit more about, I think we're going to go a little bit deeper into theory too the next time we do one of these piano things, and don't let theory scare you off. It actually helps you understand things. So
theory is awesome, you guys.
Yeah.
I was really scared of theory for so long, and now I love it. I think theory is like the most fun thing. It's like math, but fun.
Yeah. It's math that's not too, like, you don't have to go, like 12 is the highest, or 13 is like the highest number we go up to in music. So like, it's not math that we don't even need to go into thousands or millions or trillions. It's all like 13. 13 is the highest number. Not too bad, right? But it's how much you can do just with those 12, 13 notes that's the amazing thing with music. There's only 12 notes, right? and then they're repeated. So it's pretty amazing that we've been able to spend this much time. It's like the lifetime game that you get to play, right?
Yeah.
So awesome. And that's why we call it playing. Tip, don't major in music without knowledge of theory. I learned a lot then. Yeah, you're going to delve in pretty deep with theory, but if you're a lot of that stuff you're going to learn in school. Like, I didn't go and study music because a lot of people kind of scared me out of that. I didn't know I didn't know theory. I didn't know a lot of stuff. So I had some friends who kind of like almost scared me out of studying music when I was younger because I didn't know that stuff. And then it wasn't until a little bit later that somebody really said to me, like, don't listen to them. Like, you're going to learn it there. That's where you go to college to learn things better. You go to things. So don't let anything also intimidate you to not do something just because it might be difficult. And then I ended up learning most of the stuff on my own. Because I don't have a degree in music. My degree is actually tourism and hospitality management. So also, who knows what your degree is going to lead to, right?
Right?
Do what you love. That's the important thing. And we get to do that every day. Thanks to you guys. All right? That seems like a good way to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
With like some heart love, right? All right, bye y'all.
Bye.
We'll see you soon. Take care.